I was, and we met in Delhi, and I went through my exposure to this world. I must say that, like many upper caste urban kids, I was shielded from some of the oppression that goes on, a lot of the oppression. I never was exposed to it because I was never participant in it. But I didn't know what upper caste communities, like my extended families and all of them, actually do in the villages and all. So when I got exposed to that, it was the biggest shock of my life, and really turned me upside down, and I've been wrestling with this issue for all of these years, and then of course for these many years began campaigning and saying this last vestige of human slavery must end in our generation.
And your experience is true of many people who are here sometimes who say this isn't happening. They've really been sheltered from it too, because caste it keeps you segregated so much from the rest of society.
Yeah, one can forgive my Indian colleagues who, because of ignorance or because of protection of how their parents raised them, they didn't know about it. But when they deny it, it's unforgivable because the problem is so big. I mean, here, look at this. Right now, we are campaigning for this decade to end all Dalit trafficking. Okay, it's huge. Everybody's writing about it. Right now in India, over 2.3 million girls and women are trafficked. 70% of them are Dalits and tribals. There are villages in the state that I live in where you won't find a girl child above 5 years of age in a Dalit tribal village. Why? Because all of those children are sold into sexual and slavery, and they are in brothels all over India, or in a brothel in the Gulf, or who knows, even in North America.
Now, so when you say sold, do you mean the actual family of the child sells them into this?
The parents are complicit into this because, first of all, you're a Dalit, then you're born as a Dalit tribal girl child. The mother and the parents cannot even think, how do I bring this? Because if I bring this child up, anyway, she's going to get raped, she's going to get abused. 3 Dalit women are raped every day, you know, in the country. And so the abuse that's going on to women is so huge. So the parents are complicit. They work with the middlemen and the business guys, and they sell the child for $1,000, $2,000, and that's the end of it. And the child disappears into the brothels of India.
You said this is the single largest group of modern slaves.
Absolutely.
In the world.
In the world. I mean, in terms of human trafficking, the problem in India is so big that the US State Department's report in 2005-2006 says India has the largest group of humans being trafficked. And you got trafficking into the sex trade, you got trafficking into child labor. Slumdog Millionaire is trafficking into beggary. Beggary means you kidnap kids, you take their eyes out, you kill, you amputate them, and you use them in the profession of beggary. There is the trafficking of young boys into becoming camel jockeying in Rajasthan or in the Gulf, where they are tied to camels, and the camels run, and as the camel runs and the legs of the child brushes against the leg of the camel, and the child screams, and as the child screams more, the camel learns how to run faster and faster, and while this goes on, the child is maimed permanently for life. These are children that are trafficked.
So Joseph, how do you, because this is, you can see by our faces, we're like, I wouldn't say traumatized, but this is overwhelming and horrible. So what, is it pressure from outside of India to bring this change? I know with you, I mean, what is the Dalit Freedom Network doing? Because it seems so overwhelming. What can one person do to just start bringing about change?
Oh, there's plenty everybody can do, and I think one individual can make a huge difference, and I have loads of stories on this. But Ambedkar was the father of the Dalit movement, who lived around the time that Gandhi lived and worked during independence. In 1934, he wrote in the New York Times of that day that nothing but concerted world opinion will bring down the practice of untouchability. Nothing but concerted world opinion and involvement, because the problem is so deeply entrenched. There is no conscientization within Indian society. Why are we allowing this? Why do we exploit these children, and what do we do about it? Because one of the great answers which we have addressed and we're looking at is to free these Dalit children, bring them into schools, schools, give them a worldview that teaches they are made in the image of God, that God loves them, that they are not being punished by God in this life. Actually, there is a God who created them in His own image. And the school program, the school freedom program, which the Dalit leaders themselves invited us to do, has now crossed 100 schools. The first decade is over, and just in the month of February, we had our first graduation of 28 young teenage Dalit boys and girls. It was an overwhelming experience. You know, one of the first kids that got up as they came up in their gowns and all, I broke down emotionally because I've seen all of these kids living in pipes, and some were slave child laborers in southern India. And one of the first kids that comes up was a Dalit Muslim boy, Slumdog Millionaire. But this boy is proud, excited, freed. And I thought, God, thank you that I have had a part in this. When the whole ceremony was over, his mother was in the audience. 1,000 people were there. All the parents came. She came up to me with her, burqa pulled back and all, held my hand, and she said, "This is only God. Only God can do this. Thank you so much."
And this is what you were talking about, that Dalit kids are indoctrinated their whole life that they're less than, and now you're reversing that with school. You're indoctrinating them that they're equal, and that in God there's no categories.
And here are the schools now. We're looking at some footage.
Education that has a value system that teaches them that they're born equal before God, which is of course the teaching in Genesis. An education system that teaches them that we actually have a God, but it's a God of love whom we are dealing with, not a God of punishment and hate who has consigned us to some hopeless position because of sins in a past life. When you do this, there's a tremendous change, even in the first couple of years. And as the kids came up on stage and some of the kids performed, you wonder, wow, these are people just like us, beautiful human beings. And they were interviewed, and some person says, one girl who actually grew up in a pipe, just a pipe, says, "I want to become a cardiosurgeon."
Wow.
Hope.
That tells me, that's what I was just going to say, they really can embrace a new sense of self-worth.
Yes.
It's huge to overcome what's been pumped into them. And
Yeah.
on the cultural side, I know we're talking about a demonic stronghold here, Dr. D'Souza, but how much does this reflect a threat to the whole socio-economic strata here? You're going to remove all these slaves from the general operation of life as we know it in India. Is that a huge part of the resistance here?
Yeah, it is. It is the campaign to free the Dalit community, the child, the women, the parents, and to reach out to them. Here they are saying, to the world and to India, come and free us, do something about our situation. We are powerless, we are voiceless, our children are sold into bonded labor, come and do something about it.